Jeff Malott. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Yeah. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Kayak Bass Nation. Hey. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation, where we talk about fishing and competition. It's your boy Ox Pippin, aka Ox Fishing. Don't come over here tripping. Hey, hope you enjoy the show. Jeff Malott, Lunch Money Lambert, Lego. Hey, welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Kayak Bass Nation. Yeah. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Kayak Bass Nation. Hey. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation. Welcome to the Kayak Bass Nation.
What's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday.
What's going on?
We've done this on Tuesday a couple times, Ryan.
We have. I apologize. I had Braves tickets last night, so I asked Jeff if we could please move it to Tuesday on this deal.
Little daddy-daughter date. Was that fun? Did y'all have a good time?
Dude, we had a blast. Me, Kenzo, and Cam went down, and she's a big Acuna fan, so we had to get us some right field seats and see what the old boy could do. They did pretty good. Had me sweating there for a minute. I was ready to ask for my money back about the sixth inning, but they pulled it off.
And then I saw y'all out today prepping for the incoming Red Dawn event that's going to happen.
I just want to make sure she's shooting straight, man. We got out Cam. She's like she does all these national competitions and whatnot. So Kenzo wanted to go shooting with her, and of course Cam comes out of the gate and just bop bop bop, just mowing them down at like 60 feet with with a pistol. And I was like, okay, you can teach her how to do that.
That's good. That's good. Mm-hmm. I was gonna say, hey, who's that teaching her how to shoot? And then I realized who it was. I was like, oh damn, she's the one.
Oh yeah, she can shoot for sure.
She can shoot. That's cool. Well, it was a hell of a weekend, man. We've got our guest from the Susky. As we expected, it did not disappoint. Put out some giant bags of smallmouth. We got Josh, fellow podcaster, Smallie Talk host. He'll be, I'm sure, set up with a nice setup there to talk to us. Josh is going to join us here in a minute to talk about his big win over there on the Susky. He held off a strong field. That was fun to watch as usual, but we've got some stuff to talk about regarding the event as well, right, Ryan?
I feel like I don't know why. I feel like everybody in the Bassmaster stuff, like everything gets saved until that last event. Like the last Pickwick event was, full of fire and brimstone, and this one, man, there was a lot that went on, and I like messages started on like Tuesday and Wednesday coming in about this is going on and that's going on. I want to address that part real quick. Jeff and I, while, we love to cover the news here, whatever, we're not the police. Like, if you're in a tournament and you see something going on that you have questions about, don't message me or Jeff about it first. Like, we can't do anything at all as far as the tournament goes. If something's missed, if there's something being ignored by, a tournament series or something, bring it to us then. We'll try to get some eyes on it. But as far as the tournament goes, you need to call the TD. If you have something that's going on, instead of 2 or 3 of your buddies talking and, just kind of spreading the rumors and getting the fire going, reach out to the TD. Let them actually investigate it, grow some balls and get something done, because I can't do anything about it. So I don't really like the stress myself. I mean, I don't care. Like, I want things to be done well. And when people bring stuff to me, I always, always, always let Steve-O or AJ know about it up front so they can look into it, because we can't do anything as podcast hosts. We don't have a magic wand or anything.
Yeah, we do have the KBN Department of Justice. We have that logo over there, but that is usually used when all other avenues have been exhausted or ignored. Correct. or thrown under the rug, and we don't mind using it. We love to see the right thing done out there. The other thing you can do besides get with the tournament director is actually say something to the angler.
What? You're kidding?
Maybe say, hey, can you clarify what was going on there? And they can maybe clarify, and then you're like, oh, damn, it was all fine. and then you go on your, or it wasn't, and then you do go to the director, whatever. But you can do that. You know, I my real job, my real life, I work in employee education, and we talk about mitigating arguments between employees. And it's like the first thing we ask is, hey, did you talk to the other employee about what's going on there?
Yeah,
and if
there
the answer
are
is
better
no,
avenues, turns out, than just gossiping amongst yourselves.
Yeah. So, yeah. With that said, do we want to address any of the things that were rumored to be happening over there? Because it seems it's not just there; it's just an ongoing issue. I think the main thing we want to talk about, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think this just highlighted it. I think, you know, obviously social media and Instagram stories and stuff like that really point that out to people. Things that you might not know if you were just out there fishing. Like you may not see, you know, somebody filming with somebody else. From what I understand, and, you know, I've talked to several of the parties involved here, Jeff Little, you know, with Torquedo was out filming some anglers. Well, Jeff is probably arguably the best stick that there is on the Susky. I don't think too many people can argue that. He's fantastic. He's not a guide. He does not hold a current guide license. So as far as the rules go, there was no rule infraction at all. But filming with somebody that's not in the tournament that is the best stick on the Susky, I feel like that just brings into question a lot of things. And you know, these are fantastic river anglers. Many of them have cashed checks previously on this river. You know, it's not uncommon to see them do well there. I think that just kind of cast the tournament in a bad light. Just doing that on tournament waters during official practice and even during the tournament itself. Do I think these anglers needed the help? No, not at all. But it still brings into question, like when you're fishing one of these big tournaments, you, as an angler, you have to think, or even as a sponsor, is this going to be something that's going to overshadow the tournament or, you know, kind of cast a bad light on it? It shouldn't have to go to Bassmaster's desk, what you're doing pre-fishing. That should be your goal. You know, don't put that stress on Bass, on Steve-O. Like that's, I mean, it's kind of disrespectful to put him in that kind of position, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and to be clear, that you know this particular incident was run up the flagpole. This time around, and as we said, Ryan and I were number one. We weren't even in this tournament. We were watching from afar, like many of you. But we heard about some of this stuff because none of this was in the shadows. It was in plain sight. Many other anglers saw them fishing all week, but they were outraged by it and wanted something done about it. And whether this particular instance was right or wrong, I don't think speaks to the bigger point of info sharing in general has kind of always been a hot topic. And how do we continue to refine that? Where do we go with that, Ryan? What do you think?
I think you have to, like, again, I think this just completely highlighted, you know, what some of the weaknesses are. And, you know, I made some tongue-in-cheek jokes earlier in our group chat. There's limitless possibilities on, you know, you having somebody on the water or getting info from somebody on the water, as long as they're not a paid guide or you're not paying or soliciting that information, it's pretty much wide open. It's the Wild West in the current setup. I think there's a lot of things we can do to kind of refine that and just take, you know, this particular scenario out of the picture. And I think we need to.
I'd say at every level of bass fishing, tournament bass fishing, boat, kayak, whatever, there is info sharing. It is a part of your arsenal, part of the game. If you have access to it, it's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But like you said, the optics of some of the stuff that goes on, and then the info that's available to a select few and not others, it just causes a bad look, like you were saying, right? It's bad optics for the tournament or to the anglers themselves, and a lot of times unnecessarily, because whether the anglers did something wrong or not is not even in question here. It's the perception.
And John just congratulated Russ on his Bassmaster AOY. That's another point. Like, there's something that's this big on the line. The last thing you want to do is even give anybody anything to talk about on that. And, you know, I think Russ was upset at how, you know, kind of how it played out and how much, you know, attention that got him filming with Jeff, because obviously Russ goes into this. This is his tournament to lock it down, to win AOI. He needed this tournament to win it. So you don't want stuff like that in the mix. And I think really when it's sponsors that are that are pushing the content, or sponsors going up and booking a guide trip the week before on the same tournament waters. Why do that to your anglers? Just let it be clean and let it play out. If you want to film, if you want to get content, if you want to book a fishing trip, do it the week after. Do it, Monday, Tuesday after the tournament, just so there's not, this kind of gray area stuff that we're sitting here talking about right now. That's right.
It's funny. I just watched a documentary. A lot of people have already seen it. Have you seen the Bishop Sycamore documentary on HBO, the BS High?
I have not.
Fantastic. The football,
Really?
The fake high school football team. So y'all go watch that if you can. But one of the points made in that is none of those guys went to jail. None of those guys got in trouble really for anything other than because there was no rule nor law against any of it.
Yeah.
And the reason there wasn't is nobody expected anybody would do that. So a lot of the things we're learning in kayak fishing, there's not rules and laws or regulations against certain things because we never thought people would do certain things. And then we figure out they will, then a new rule is passed. So there's got to be a happy medium. We can't just be running around like a bunch of communists and lock everything down, but there's got to be reasonable stuff that goes on as well, right?
Agreed.
Yeah.
And that being said, Bass ran a great season. From all the feedback that I've received, this tournament was exceptional. Great reception by the community, having the kayak anglers in. Great feedback on Steve-O running the tournament. I don't want any of that to take away from this. This is just how can we get better and not have this stuff happen in the future.
Yeah. And before Ryan and I get any hateful text or emails, this is just information we were given by anglers in the tournament. We're just passing along some of our opinions of what's been going on behind the scenes. So,
and I've spent way too many hours myself over the past few days trying to vet out every single thing that was said. That way, I want to know what the facts are, period.
Yeah.
So I've tried to over communicate with people. That way we know what's going on. And I think that's what's going on. I don't think there was anything malicious on the angler side. I just think that leaves the door open for rumors to be spread and doubt to be cast.
Yeah, there you go. One more thing before we get Josh in here. I guess we could get him in here and talk about it, but Bass dropped their schedule today too.
They did, and it looks good. It looks really good.
Really, really good. We can get into that. We'll bring Josh on. We've had him waiting a little bit. So we'll bring him in, and
he's got that big fuzzy microphone. I think he's afraid of getting bit by it right now. So get him in there.
There he is. Is that a raccoon?
Up, boys? I just think about this as like a hairy ball sack that I put in front of my face. So,
I felt like something was going to come of that, so I'm glad you took it there.
So, hey, before I come on with you guys, I need to know something. So, what's the acceptability for foul language here?
Perfectly acceptable.
Okay, because I'm about to get fucking wild. So,
yes.
I need to know how wild I'm allowed to get. So.
We're not
go back and listen to the Josh Smith episode of our podcast, and that will clarify how wild you can get.
I would say we get wild on Smallie Talks, so that's just how we roll. We call ourselves the Wet Boys, so Wet Boys get wild. So
that's what Harshman just posted, starting off Wet Boys.
We got Wet Boy Nation in the comments. We got.
What does that mean? What does that mean? Do we?
It seems like a slur. Is that some kind of slur?
Boy,
it does.
Boys, the boys just like to get wet. So we, we fish, we get in the water, we get wet, and the wetter the better. That's just how it goes.
If I'm not mistaken, at Susky last year, I had a Smallie Talk sticker found on my truck and Wet Boy and some kind of penis drawing on my truck.
That sounds like a typical Wet Boy shenanigan.
Okay.
So yes,
definitely. I'm glad I found out
the
organization that pulled that off.
Yes, sir. So
who was the person that coined that? Do you know?
It was us. Yeah, it was on the podcast. It's a long story about meeting up with the child who made nets for someone and thinking they were a teenager. Whoa. And it was an inside joke.
Whoa.
And it got taken got taken way too far. And next thing you know, we're calling ourselves the Wet Boys. So
that sounds like Thailand.
The Wet Boys love the cesspool. We get wet in the cesspool. So, and just to prove it, I own an apparel brand. So I had to wear my Chegan stuff, but dude, I got the freaking Nation hoodie here.
Love it.
Is that the Schmedium Nation hoodie?
It's a Schmedium now because I've dried it way too many times, and I'm a fat boy and a wet boy, so it's tight on me. So,
You
but
could cut it off like crop top style. That's in right now.
don't tempt me. I will stand up on this webcam and let you see that. But
Is your tailor in house right now?
yeah, but yeah, it's good to be here, guys. I've been on the forum or page or whatever for a long time, and it's fun. I enjoy all the stuff that you guys do, and appreciate kind of keeping up with all the drama and all the fun stuff in the kayak world. And yeah, it's a good time. So pleasure.
Well,
to be here.
congratulations on your huge win. You absolutely smoked them. I think is that the biggest 2-day total that the Suskies put out in a big event? I think it is.
I have no idea. I don't know who. I think you actually are the one that said that you thought that was. I'm not claiming that, but if it gets bestowed upon me, I'll accept it.
Okay. So. All right. That's fair. Harshman can confirm. Jordan Welliver says yes. So, yep. All right. Ryan was right again. Tally it up.
Wesley said she's not sure she should be in the chat on this one. Why, Wesley?
She gets nervous. All that wet boy talk.
Go get Leslie, and everything will be all right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, man.
All right.
So, you caught a golden smallmouth?
What?
Yeah, dude. I'm the guy who caught that orange smallmouth. You know?
Oh, wow.
Did you guys?
Oh, I think you meant in the tournament. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah, that was I caught it in Michigan last summer. That was my claim to fame up until now, I guess. So.
Did you get a replica mount made?
No. I killed that bitch. I killed it and brought it home. No, I'm just joking. I put it back.
You out there fishing for dinner?
Yeah, I put it back. No, it was a cool thing. It was kind of a once in a lifetime fish. It was like 13 inches, so I can't brag.
You can blow it up. You can.
yeah. I did. I long darmed it in a pick, and people were like, "Oh, that's like 17 inches." I'm like, "No, I just know how to take pictures, son." So
that hurt.
Oh, wow. All right.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It's beautiful.
It was it was wild on a buzzbait. So first fish of the day too.
Fantastic.
So. Yeah,
but I wonder if Steve Owens knew that ginger smallmouth exists.
Oh my gosh, we're not
to Steve
opening
about
that can of worms again. So tell us about the tournament. You and I talked offline. I didn't want to get too much information from you then because I want it fresh here. But
sure.
You don't have until this year. You didn't have a lot of experience on the Susky. So take us through, you learning this river and how it kind of led up to this event.
Yeah, man. So I'm, for those who don't know me, you guys mentioned the podcast, I own a smallmouth, or my company's Achigan, the official brand of smallmouth bass. So I'm sort of like a smallmouth junkie, and like anybody that fishes for smallmouth, especially out of a kayak, I have a kayak, jet boat, drift boat. I'm shallow water, moving water guy. And, the Susky's like, top 2-3 rivers in the world for smallmouth, for river smallmouth. So, I've been there. I was there in 2018 with the Wilderness Systems kind of get together. I was on their pro staff for a while, and
I remember them.
Fished it. Yeah, I know. I used to like them. I'm technically still an ambassador for them, and I fish out of
never mind.
Hobie,
Sorry,
if that tells you anything. So, yeah, no, good guys over there, but. I like my Hobie. So, but yeah, so I basically have been there 2018. I went the very next time, fished the Hobie last year. So I fished that. And last year was weird. You guys, I think both you guys, or Ryan, you were there.
Oh,
yeah, it was low as shit. And it was like really like tough to find water. It was like, and I did okay, but like I was like 50th something place, and I was really like salty about that tournament because I ended up fishing in the same spot as Nolan Miner on the last day, and like we were kind of talking back and forth on the river, and I gave him a space, and he ended up coming on our podcast and like talked about how he won it, and I was like really close to figuring out the fish. Like that whole time, I just wasn't. You guys have been there, you're like right on the edge of the pattern, and you just don't put all the pieces together. So I left that place thinking like the next time I come here, like that's not going to happen. So yeah, this year this is my third time out here. So I came here real early in the spring and fished out of my jet boat. And we like it was like pre-spawn, like spawn kind of time. And we smoked them on that trip, but it didn't really tell me anything about this particular tournament. But I'm learning more about the river. Like, what does this area look like? What does that area look like? Where do the fish set up? You know, you can learn a lot in the spawn because you can see where those fish end up spawning. You kind of know where they're coming from, where they're staging. We call everything from spawning to pre-spawning fish. So, and then I came back out here about a month and a half before the tournament, and I fished with my dad and my brother. We do like a father-son thing to a smallmouth river every year. And we had a fucking trip, dude. We I mean, we had a 1 in 3 hour span. I had 101 inches. So it was a wild trip. Just absolutely crushed them. So that trip was not so much from a pattern standpoint, but again, I'm like putting together like the river's shrinking for me, you know, and the Susky is a huge river, but like I'm starting to really see like, all right, like here's the way this thing sets up. So when I came back out here, I really had a good idea of like kind of like where to start and where to like figure out where these fish were kind of in their migration. I just didn't know fall can be like early to mid fall can be really weird because they're like not quite in their fall pattern, but they're kind of in their summer pattern. So like I was really, you know, curious as to like where they were going to be at, but I found them like within the first like hour of practice, I smoked 220s and a 19 and like right away. And like
pretty solid.
After I did that, I was like, well, I know where I'm fishing. I left it. And then I went and like fun fished the rest of the practice. I didn't even like really do anything besides just fun fish. And then I went right back to that same spot on tournament day. I fished that. It was a super isolated area. Like there was no, like when I went there, like it was like you're there and you're not leaving. And I basically fished that. I beat the absolute fuck out of this spot for 2 days. And yeah, I caught 8 fish on Saturday and 9 on Sunday total.
Really?
So yeah, and that's not
but
how
obviously
I fish,
that's
man.
where the bigger fish were holding. Like you weren't fishing numbers, you were fishing to win.
Yeah, and I mean anybody that knows me or fish with me, dude, like especially on the Susky, like that place is like, dude, like you want to be out running around the grass islands and throwing spinner baits and like, you know, hopping, and you can smoke them doing that. Obviously, a lot of guys did. But like tournament fishing is like different, right? Like you're trying to catch the alphas of the alphas, and you fishing against 140 some dudes. Like you have to like find where the big fish are. And I knew that there were big fish in that spot. And I was like I knew if I would just fish it long enough, I would get 5 bites. I thought that. I was questioning myself that halfway through day one, I had 4, and dude, I went 2 hours without a bite in between fish 4 and 5. And I had a
contemplate moving at all?
No, I didn't, man.
I was
like
in it.
Mind.
I got you.
Yeah, I mean, I would have had a 2-mile paddle back to my truck upstream, and it was like I was gonna have to like it would have wasted so much time. It wouldn't have made sense. I mean, but I was
gonna ask you if choosing that spot helped you lock in, like being so difficult to have to move.
You didn't give yourself another choice, basically.
Yeah. So there was a select few people that knew about that spot. One of them was Drew. I've stayed in the house with Drew Gregory, and like I didn't tell anybody about where I was fishing, not a single soul. But Drew, like we were talking about fishing, like just pre-fishing in general, and he was like, I bet I know where you're fishing at. And I was like, all right, motherfucker, tell me where I'm fishing at. And he was like, told me, and I was like, shit, yeah, that's it. And
sir, you're right.
yeah. He was like, well, I was gonna fish that area as part of my rotation, but he's like, I'll leave it sit since you're gonna be there. And honestly, because it's so isolated, I knew if I got there and somebody else was on it, like I was gonna be fucked. Like because I would have been sharing those 8 fish with somebody. And I did have like several guys like run through that area, but like you had to basically like you had to commit to it or you weren't going to be catching those fish because like I said, it was like I'd go hour and a half in between bites, 2 hours that one time. So it was like one of those, I was just grinding out those fish and like it took everything in me from a mental standpoint to stay there because I was just like, I wanted so bad, especially the second day when guys were whacking them. And like, obviously at that point I had a lead and I couldn't in good faith leave because I was like, I couldn't give that up. But I really wanted to go fish other places and, but I wanted to win the tournament. So I did what I set out to do and, everything worked out. So
Let's talk about that
Did you-
spot, man. I don't want you to give up the juice of where your spot is, obviously, but
sure.
you talking, sometimes people make a cast to a car hood. Are you talking like a 20-yard stretch, 100-yard stretch, like a small, you making the same cast
100
over and
yard.
over again, 100 yards? So just making
Yeah, it was a
back and
very
forth?
small area. But obviously I'm not, and I'm gonna bring it up proactively because you guys, I know I heard some whispers about some like, I don't know what the fuck people are saying, but here's the thing, like this is what I'm gonna say. Like one, like I was very well versed in the rules before I went because like the last thing I want to do is do something dumb, and get disqualified or whatever. I fish a lot of tournaments locally. Like I'm angler of the year in our local series. Like I understand like how kayak tournaments work. And there was like absolutely no like shady stuff going on. I'm in a Hobie I-11, by the way, no electronics, no motor, nothing. Let's just put it this way. I can get places where other guys can't because I can carry that fucking thing on my shoulders and I can take it wherever I want. So like this tournament, it was very clear it was legal to portage, it was legal to tether and wade. And I did do some of that stuff, but it was all like within the bounds of legal Pennsylvania law and also the tournament law. So there was absolutely no funny business, but I wanted to make sure I was the first one there. So, like anybody else would do. So,
And basically, so for listeners that aren't familiar with how this particular tournament was set up, as far you had hard boundaries. Basically, you had to launch from a legal public launch, or if it was a private launch, you had to have permission. And I know that was something that was brought up about this angler launched here, it's private, blah blah blah. They had the written documentation on it. There were so many. I can't remember a tournament when there were so many extraneous things brought into this. And I mean, Steve-O did his due diligence. Like as soon as he heard about something, he checked it out. So, hats off to Steve for looking into all that stuff. But I mean, everybody followed the rules. Like no matter how you want to look at it, if you launched public or written permission private, there weren't really, anything else as far as where you could go. Getting to your spot. When portaging is legal, you can do whatever. Like if you can carry your kayak, more power to you. That's still well within the rules.
Yeah, and I think some of the questions out there were of people. I'm not familiar with the Susky, but above some of the shoals or low water bridges or whatever, there are some buoys that you can't circumvent to go down the
above.
Falls or whatever.
So I talked to Steve-O about this. So above the dams, obviously there are buoys to keep people from washing over the dam and dying. Anything below the dam is just a cautionary deal, like, hey, heads up, there's some whitewater up here, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this, like where I got to, like where I came from, there were no buoys at all. There may have been buoys in the area I was fishing, but they weren't any sort of like, you can't go near this or whatever. So like, it was not, there's, like I said, there was several guys that passed through there and like fished it. Like there was no issues there. So yeah. Like I said, nothing, no shady business going on. And like, if anybody has anything, like be a fucking man. Like I got an Instagram, I'm about the bronze. You fucking come to me and say something and like ask me, fine. And if you want to go like to the tournament director because you like, there's a process, like you can write a protest, then go write a protest. Like, there was nothing, there's basically nothing that like, I did wrong. So like I said, dude, it is what it is, but I just wanted to put that out there too, just
Sure.
so it wasn't, like in question. If anybody has anything else, dude, they can come talk to me. So,
Amen. And that's what Ryan and I were talking about. You heard all that while you were in the lobby. Is a lot of this could be solved by, number one, talking to your fellow angler if you have a question, or two, going to the tournament director and they can talk to him. Either way, because we're all
simple,
out for the.
I feel like.
I mean, there are, now let's not get twisted. There are some shady people out there doing shady business sometimes, but in general, I don't think that's the case.
Yeah, I'm sure that. I mean, dude, you get 140 some guys together, like they're gonna be guys doing stuff they shouldn't be doing, and it's hard, like, to police all that stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I fish boat tournaments a lot, dude. I've seen guys tie fish up. I've seen the, and you guys,
We got weights and fish.
Yeah, you got what's
Yeah.
well documented in the kayak world, people cutting boards and cutting tails, and I've seen all that stuff, bending boards, whatever, you want to say. So it's there's a lot of weird stuff going on, but like, dude, that's like, dude, I won $8,500 in this tournament. That ain't moving the needle for me. That ain't worth any sort of like trying to like tarnish my name or whatever. Like, this not worth the risk. So,
and that's the thing. Like, I don't understand when people do this, like, kind of questionable stuff that's going to stick with their reputation, in the future. Is it worth it? You want $1,200, $2,000? Like, is it worth that?
It's all about the likes and follows, right?
I know, man. I don't understand that part.
I think guys do. I mean, honestly, I fish that tournament. Like, I'm competitive. I like, I fished it for the freaking trophy. Honestly, man, like, that's what I wanted. I wanted to go home with that trophy, and like, it was cool. I've never won anything that big, and like the amount of like my kids, like I have 2 little girls at home, like they were like watching it, the awards on, our TV, and like they sent me the video of them like finding out I was in first place. Like, that was fucking cool, dude. Like, that was like, dude, that was like made it all worth it. And dude, I had a lot of fun fishing that thing. I mean, you go out and catch, I don't know how many pound bag I had. It was every bit of, I would say, 20-pound bag both days of fish, because they were freaking stacked. Those
and it's
smallmouth.
Bassmaster. It's Bassmaster. It's a blue trophy. You're on the website. You have all this media attention. Like, if you're going to be on your P's and Q's for anything, that should be like, I mean, as far as amount of eyeballs in the fishing industry, that's like, that's the one you need to pay, the most attention to, I feel like.
Yeah, and you know what? Like you said, Josh, you're a competitor. Ryan and I are both competitors. Can you imagine winning that nice blue trophy?
We used to be, Jeff.
Winning a nice trophy like that blue one above your shoulder. Ryan Van Tyne called you the Wet King. Let's see that trophy up close. Or Ryan's big TOC trophy back there, or whatever the case may be. Yeah, there you go. Can you imagine winning that? How could you feel like a real competitor if you did shady business to capture it? You know what I mean? It doesn't even make sense to me. I can't reconcile that. So anyway, back to just your tournament and your big win. These tournaments are hard to win.
We got through day one. You're grinding. Day one. It took a while to get your 5th fish. Did you continue to lean on those fish on day one? Were you swinging all the way? Because you had, I mean, you had a massive bag day one and day two.
Here's a little bit more on day one. So I had like heard around that like guys were catching them on swim baits, and I'm the furthest thing from a swim bait guy. Like, I throw a fluke. I'm a nose hook fluke guy. That's like, I catch my fish 90% of the time, and I'm really good with it. But swim baits just aren't like a thing I do much. I had one swim bait box I brought with me, and it was like a tiny little Plano swim bait box. It wasn't, I had to have a separate compartment for it, because like I didn't even have room for it. But I brought it because I was like, man, I might have to throw one, because guys have been catching on them. So I did tie on a bull shad, a 6-inch bull shad. I had one, like the resin ones. I had one. And sure enough, sure as shit, that's what I ended up catching my first 4 fish on, right? And they were choking it, dude. I mean, they were like absolutely in their face, like not getting off, like they were absolutely crushing it. So I'm like, man, I was feeling really, really good about it. Throw up in there in the spot, and dude, I got like I got crushed, and I was like, oh man, another big fish, but I could tell it's rip and drag, and I'm like, it's a flathead, like flathead hit it, and I saw this thing, the huge tail swim underneath my kayak, and I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to, push my button and kind of let this thing run or whatever. So I'm like letting it run, and dude, a giant, I'm talking the biggest muskie I've ever laid eyes on, came completely out of the water vertical like a fucking tarpon, and bullshit hanging out of his jaw. And the only thing I'm thinking is like, one, there's no way I'm laying this thing. It never even crossed my mind that I could fit it in my net. It was it was huge. So I'm like fighting this thing. It keeps jumping. Like, do you guys ever catch muskie? Either one of you?
I've tried really hard to catch a big one.
Yeah,
they don't always get to the boat, turns out.
I didn't know they come out of the water like that.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, it's like tail walking. And so I like comes up finally like the third one, and like my line had kind of got, I don't know if it went looped through its gill or over its head. But it turned, I couldn't see my bullshit anymore, and it just clipped me off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, now I have 4 fish, my bullshit's gone, and I'm like, shit, like I don't know what I'm gonna do. So I go dig back in that swim bait box. I had a big S waver I tied on and start throwing that, and dude, I just wasn't feeling it. It was like it wasn't sinking at the right rate to get down where I needed to get down. And like I'm like throwing this thing. I threw it for 2 hours and I didn't get a single bite. And now it's like 1:30, and I'm like I got 2 hours left. I got to get a 5th fish. And all the things that run through your head, man. You're just like, if I don't catch a 5th fish, like I'm probably just gonna go home. Like I don't, like I can't. I'm not gonna fish for a second day. Like I was like, kind of just whatever. And so I kind of, all my fish, there's a little like scrub island like next to where I was fishing, and I kept all my fish I'd paddle over to that and drag up on it to measure them so I wouldn't lose them. And so I went over that scrub island, sat in my kayak. I got a drink out, drank it, and ate a little bar. And I dug through that swim bait box again, and I picked up this bad boy. So it's this is a mag slow. It's not a mag draft, mag slow. So I was like, I've caught fish on that before. I was like, I'm just gonna tie that on, and I paddled back in the spot and threw a couple times, and I got absolutely fucking hammered like the 3rd cast, and it was like a 19.5 or something like that. And then from there I culled out. So I think I culled out. I had a 17 3/4. I culled out. Yeah, there's that bull shad. That's the one I left in the picture. So
Pretty risky.
I mean, you can see how big that fish is, dude. Those fish were giants. Like they were stacked. So then I ended up catching one that I culled twice, I think, after that, 2 or 3 times. And then I didn't even look at the leaderboard at all until I caught my 5th fish. I uploaded them, and then I saw I was in 1st, and my wife like texted me. She's like, you're in 1st. Oh my God.
I was getting notifications of her like sharing the stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, she was going berserk on it. But yeah, so anyways, that was day 1. And then now I will say this, like what happened next was like typical of tournaments. I don't know how this happens. Every tournament I fish, like a 2-day event, like shit just changes. Like always. It's like never fails. Like you can't just have like a very like consistent weather. Like something always changes. So
trust me, I've seen that a time or two.
Yeah, so we had a cold front come through. Not only did we have a cold front come through, like, and it hit, like, you could feel it. Like, it was warm in the morning, and, like, it hit. They have, for those who don't know, they have a fiber dam up at the top of the main stem. So it's like basically this big inflatable dam that goes across the river. And in the fall, they deflate that dam, and it basically releases all that water downstream. So I'm like looking at the spot. I'm like, dude, this is changing. Like something's going on here. And like, I start looking at the gauge and I was like, dude, it's like double the flow that it was when I left.
Oh,
in
they
the morning.
deflated that dam in the tournament?
They deflated that
wow.
dam at 2:00 on Saturday. So like, I had to get back to my truck. So like, it was like ripping. Like, I had to get back there. It was really hard. Like, I should have said this in the awards. I don't have a motor, but my thighs are 3 horsepower each, bud. So, I was booking it back up the truck. But what happened, like, you could see that whole area was just turned into chocolate milk. Like, between the dam, the rain we got the night before, the cold front, and that dam, like, it was like just completely changing that area. So I knew I wasn't gonna be able to do the same thing the next day. So I basically went into day 2, and this will, like, that my experience on that river paid off from this standpoint. Like, I know when it dirties up, they eat jackhammers. Like,
that's what I was about to ask. Did the clarity change where you were?
Yep, it went from about like 5-6 feet of visibility to like a foot, maybe. Like, it was muddy.
Murky.
And this is, so I had smoked them on this jackhammer. I'm retiring this one, by the way. That's what I call all my fish on. But I went back and I was like, I did a podcast, Smallie Talk, where I do a tournament diary of all the tournaments I fish, and I recorded, like, on the way there, before day 1, before day 2, and then afterwards. And before day 2, I was recording in my truck, like, just talking about my game plan. I was like, if I go out there and it's muddy, like, I'm chucking a jackhammer all day and I'm not putting it down. And I went down the spot, and then I freaking threw that jackhammer the first like 20 minutes, wasn't getting by. I got smoked and snapped off the very first fish that I hooked. And keep in mind, I only caught 8 fish the day before, so I knew, like, if I'm missing fish, like, my margin for error is like really small. Like, I can't lose fish in this spot. So I ended up pulling like, I'm thinking it was another muskie, whatever. It felt big. I'm retying, and dude, this freaking 21-inch smallmouth comes up next to my kayak, jumps out of the water with my jackhammer in its mouth. Just like, clearly I just missed a giant. So I'm like, well, there's one, and then from there, like, I finally got on like a little group of them in the morning, and I smoked a 18.5 and a 20.5 the next 2 casts. And then the bite shut off for about an hour. And then I caught my next 3 pretty quick, like boom, boom, boom. So I had 5 by like 9 o'clock. So I felt like way better than the day before. But I still had I think a 17 3/4 on the board. And then I caught 2 fish the rest of the day. 2.
And did you look at the leaderboard at all on day 2 yourself?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Because
yeah.
Russ smashed them early. Like, I watched the awards and he wrecked them like quick, like real quick.
Yeah, I had I think 1.5 inch lead at my first 5 from him, and I knew it was like still like he could catch me or whatever. And I actually when I looked at the leaderboard, I said it audible out loud. I was like, all right, Russ, let's bang it out. And then I was like, that was really gay. I should not have said that.
At least you didn't whisper it in his ear, so that's good.
Yeah, I know. So I went on. I caught 2 more fish though, and one of them was I actually submitted it as a 19 1/4, and they corrected it to a 19 1/2. Because I was like just so jittery, I wasn't even paying attention. And then I caught like another 18 3/4 or something like that. And yeah, so that was pretty much. I was done. I fished, till my arm fell off until the buzzer on Sunday, but I never did catch any more fish after those last 2.
Pull up Russ's limit there on day 2, Jeff. There you go.
Yeah.
So I mean, looking at limits, you're on the Susky, there's a max on those fish. There's not many 21-inch plus fish on the Susky. So did you feel confident at any point that, okay, I see what he's got. I don't think there's that one magic 3-inch cull left. Did you analyze that?
I looked at his bag, and so if he looking at his bag right there, so he had a 18. I had a so
you're banging it out. You're looking at his bag.
Yeah, that's just how I do things.
What else? What else we got?
Yeah,
Web Boy Nation.
That's right. That's what we're all about, bud. So like his bag, I knew he would have to catch multiple 20s. So I was kind of like, I don't think that's gonna happen. Like, I mean, you can catch 20s on the Susky, but like they're not. You don't catch 2 or 3 in a day usually. And like he had already caught one, so I was kind of like, that ain't happening. But you never. They put the leaderboard dark, and like you're never 100% sure. I didn't ask anybody at the awards like what they caught. I didn't care. I was like, I'm just gonna find out when I find out. And luckily I had one other circumstance like that. I fished the Hobie BOS satellite back when they had satellite events, and we had one on my home river that there was like 103 guys that fished. It was a huge turnout for it, and I got second on that one, and I thought for sure I got first, and I ended up getting disappointed. So like I said, like from now on, like I'm not gonna assume anything until that tournament like is completely called. And so luckily, Steve called it, and I got to go up there and freaking get the trophy. So yeah. And honestly, I was really just thinking about coming on the show the whole time.
That a boy.
That's some motivation right there. We've had a bunch of people on here that we've talked before about how rare it is to be a wire-to-wire winner, right? And you obviously won the event, but you were first place both days. I mean, you had the best bag both days. That's hard to do. It's hard to win, but it's real hard to do that. Talk a little bit about your mindset, man. You already touched on it a little bit, grinding it out over 2 days to be able to stay on this fish, make the adjustments you had to make, the mindset to be able to pull that off.
I mean, I'm pretty stubborn. Like I'm like, regardless of fishing and all that, like I love to fish. Like I fish as much as I can. I mean, like I said, I got 2 kids and a wife at home, and I own 2 businesses, and like I'm busy. Like I'm running all around the place doing stuff all the time. But like I love to fish. So like regardless of what I was doing, like I was out there fishing, right? Like it's not like grinding is a very like relative term here. Like I'm out there catching 20-inch smallmouth. Like it's only the grinding word is like whatever. But like I'm competitive and I wanted to win. And really at the end of the day, like I knew my best shot was to stay on that spot and just absolutely hammer it to death.
Did you feel like you had it won when you woke up on day 2? Were you like, I'm about to do this?
I felt pretty good about it, man. I know I'm not being cocky, but like I was like my whole mindset, but that second day, so I was nervous the first day because I didn't know if somebody was going to be in my spot.
Yeah.
Day 2, I kind of was like, I already know what's going to happen on that spot because, like I said, guys move through that area. Like there was like Jeff Rabbit, he moved through, and I didn't know it was him. He came up to me at the board. He's like, "Hey, that was me that moved through that spot or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, cool, dude." Like, and we were all like, I let him fish. We just kind of passed each other, and like, everything was cool. I went up and talked to one dude after I caught a fish and told him, I was like, "Hey, I'm leading, whatever." But I was like, "You can go fish over there. Like, I don't give a shit." But I kind of knew, like, if somebody wanted to be in the area, they had to do the same thing as me. They would have had to like commit to it, and nobody was willing to do that besides me. So
you
like
had other people in the same pool that were also in contention there, correct? Didn't go as far as you, but were in the same general area there.
Yeah. So Wheeliver Jordan, which he's a good dude. Like I got to know him.
There.
Yeah, I got to know him at the ramp, and then Mark, I can't remember. He got like 7th, maybe. What's his last name? Mark. I can't remember his last name.
Jeff's got the stat sheet.
But Edwards got 5th.
Yeah. He was. We were the only 3 to launch from that ramp, at least day 1. I think another guy came in day 2. I don't know who it was, but it was a boat ramp. Like it was, like it's a public access or whatever. But yeah, there were guys, but we didn't see each other. Like I didn't see them the whole time. Like the guys that were coming like in my spot came from below me up, and then they were like fishing that area, but it was just kind of part of their run. So they were like, doing a milk run or whatever and like going that. Like I didn't do that, and I went to that spot. And the thing was, man, like I've fished my whole life. Like I've like I said, I used to fish boat tournaments. Like I owned a bass boat, like an aluminum bass boat when I was in high school, and pulled it with an Astro van. Like I've been fishing my entire life. And like I know I've won a lot of tournaments, did well in a lot of tournaments, and I know that how that works. Like you have to, like, the big fish, if you find them, you don't leave them. That's period. End of story. Like you find big fish, you don't leave them. And that's like a rule everybody knows. Like, and I knew there were big fish there in the area. Like you could tell it was for sure setting up like a fall area where they had pushed bait into an area, and like they were just kind of taking turns moving up and feeding. Right. And there were big on pre-fish. I caught like a 12-pound channel cat. Like I caught a muskie there. Like they were just like alpha fish in this spot. So like the little fish couldn't be there. They would get eaten. So the only fish that were there were fish that could like survive in that area. So they were just pushing bait up in the area. And I think that particular area gets better. Like here in like 2 or 3 weeks, that area is probably fire, like numbers wise, but it just wasn't quite there yet. But the big fish had moved up, and that was what I was catching. So,
And I know there weren't any photos on day 2 from like a Bassmaster cameraman in that area. And I know, like, I guess the PA State Championship is coming up. So out of respect for anglers that may be targeting something like that, there weren't any, kind of spot burning type stuff that went on there. For you personally, do you think that would have been added pressure? Is that something that, you wouldn't have liked to have, or did you not care either way because you're not going to fish it again this fall anyway?
I mean, I care because like I'm buddies with a lot of the guys that are, that live out there. So like, I just have respect for spots in general. And I don't, it's not that I want to go back up there and use it, but like you win a big tournament like this, like there's a lot of eyes on it. There's guys that want to bitch and complain about stuff too, which fuck them. But like there's just a lot of eyes on it. So like you put just like the baits you're using and all that stuff, like guys want to duplicate that. So if you tell somebody where you're fishing or whatever, like I don't do it. Like I find my own fish. Like I'm not trying to like go copy someone's, whatever. Like I'm out doing it by myself. But like if some guys do that, they see a spot and they're like, oh, I got to go fish that spot or whatever. Good luck. If you want to go sit on a spot and catch 8 fish, like good luck finding it because like, it's not like you're going to go there and like just wreck them right away. Like it took commitment.
You got to
go there
figure it out.
And to me, that's what we were talking about at the beginning of the show. That's some of the magic of fishing, is figuring that out and committing to that and knowing that it's only big bites there and not just getting some waypoint and showing up. And you know what I mean? That's some of the magic of it.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, it's one of those things, dude. I could have easily like went to pre-fish that spot and like fished it for 2 hours and not caught anything. And I would have probably reverted back to like me going and out, fishing in Liverpool or somewhere where like, I love that area down by a ferry boat grounds, like all those grass islands, dude.
That's
like,
my favorite float from like Liverpool to ferry boat. Like I love that. I don't know. And in my head, I like to cover a lot of water. Like on a river like that, I'm like, if I can put 12 miles in front of me, surely to God, I'm going to bump into 4. And if you look at my past tournament results, it doesn't always work out. But but well, it's still fun. There's big fish in there,
I tell you what, that it did. You guys are saying that. Look at the leaderboard on day 2. Like, what happened was like they released all that water at the dam, and we got like a huge bump in flows. And like, if you know anything about river fishing, dude, you get a bump in flows and they will absolutely go berserk. Like those fish will move up on the front side of those islands and they will start busting bait, and you can catch them every cast. Like Drew, after I was, talking with Drew afterwards, he was like, yeah, I caught like 80 fish today. Like, and there were like a ton of them were over 18. I just couldn't get the 19s. But that's the thing. You go out there, you can catch 90 inches with your eyes closed on the Susky, dude. When it's like that, like you don't have to be real talented. Those fish are just eating. But like the 19s and 20s are harder to find. They can be really tricky. Those fish they didn't grow that size without knowing how to survive.
And 2 years ago when we were up there for the BOS on the Susky, it was high water, it was murky, the fish were chewing, but the bigger fish were positioned differently than those 17 to 18 inch fish like you're talking about up on the points of the island. The bigger fish were sitting like back in those canals that like cut through and stuff in slack water, which you wouldn't expect at all. And that's where the bigger fish were hanging out.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the trick in these shootout tournaments. People, we've had that discussion. Do you like a grind out tournament or a shootout? What would you rather have? And in these shootouts, everybody's catching them, but like Josh just said, everybody can't dial in that 19 and a half inch fish. If, even though 50th place has 85 inches, you got to dial in those 19s to take home that blue trophy.
Yeah, and win a tournament like this, I mean, people can say what they want, and it's remarkable what guys like Russ and I'd probably for getting guys like the real like consistent performers. Like it takes a lot to fall into place to win a thing like this. Like I fancy myself as a good river angler and I can hang with anybody, but like winning a tournament like this, you don't win them because you're so good. You win it because like something happens that you figure something out, and then you don't lose any fish. I mean, I was throwing treble hooks, man. I mean, I could have easily had 2 or 3 of those big fish come off, and like I would have been screwed. Like I wouldn't have won that thing. So
everything has to go right. Everything.
Oh, I know. And my wife was telling me, she always makes fun of me when I, get back home, and I always say, "Oh, I lost a giant today." And she's like, "You always say that." And I was like, it's true though. Like I always, I can count on 2 hands how many times I've lost a tournament because I had a 20 come unpinned on a whopper plopper or something stupid like that. So
or get caught up in the net and pop off, or jump off the board, or you just take a shitty picture. I remember Pendergraph when he won Possum Kingdom, he took videos of his damn fish. He wasn't even taking pictures. He was like, "Can I submit these?" And like, "No, Mark, it's a video." Like on day one, like. He almost screwed his whole tournament on the first day. Like there's so many things. And if it's raining, if your fingers are wet, like there's a million things that can go wrong, especially in kayak fishing. You're not just putting them in the box and running them back to the ramp.
You know what else went through my mind? And I actually think Lambert, your like experience had me thinking about that.
It's going to be
on a 2-day event. Are you able to catch the same fish? Like
hell
on day 1
no.
and day 2?
I'll tell you, hell no. They get DQ'd on the airplane, son.
Yeah. So I was in such an isolated area. I was like, I have no idea if these fish are the same. Like I don't think they're the same fish. But like, how was
you gonna
I
have people dropping
know?
out of this live to go look what you're doing?
Yeah. Like you can't. I mean, go look. I don't know. I mean, I will say like I didn't catch any. Like I caught one that had a real distinct like lip on it, and I was like, yeah, I know I didn't catch that one. I had a 120 and a half, but there was like a handful of 19 and a quarters, maybe like 2 or 3. I was like, maybe they're the same, but like I don't know. Like I had no idea. I'm just catching
smallmouth,
fish.
Especially like a lot of small, like they, especially in that 18-inch range, especially on the Susky, there's not a lot of differentiating factors. Like a largemouth, okay, this one may have a blister. It's got a real distinct lateral line or something. Like smallmouth, you'd really have to bust out a microscope and look at each line on them to tell if they are different fish. And when you're fishing a tournament, your adrenaline's pumping, you got money on the line. The last thing you're going to do is sit and go through all of your pictures from from day one. Like you ain't got time.
And like I said, I remember seeing on your story or something that happened to you at a tournament. So I was like, man, I mean, who knows? Like you said, you just have to have everything go right. And Josh Evans asked if that was the one with the white mark on his lip, and it was. Yeah, it was one of the last fish I caught.
Josh in there, he's looking.
I saw. I like Josh Evans. He's a good dude.
That's my boy right there, man. He's a good dude. A1
good
right
dude.
there.
He drives a badass Sequoia that I drool over every time I see it. So, yeah, man. I mean, it was fun though. Like I went and caught a bunch of big smallmouth, and I freaking won a tournament. So can't complain.
You
about
can't.
it.
I love Smallie tournaments more than anything. Obviously, like I think that I don't think you can have more fun than especially winning a Smallie tournament, because usually, it takes a 90-inch plus bag to win it, and when you're catching smallmouth that size, they fight so hard. Acrobatics, it's the pinnacle of the rush, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I had a couple of those guys do some big old jumps that got my heart stopped,
because you always think they're going to come
giants.
off. That's what smallmouth are known for. They're known for getting acrobatic and slinging that hook.
Yeah, and after other than breaking that one off, I didn't lose a single damn fish that whole tournament. It's just like, kind of like. But that's the thing. I wasn't catching 80 fish, so like if I would have lost one, dude, it would have been really tough to come back from it.
When it's your time,
did you throw that mag draft at all on day 2, or you just went straight jackhammer?
I threw it after I'd already got 5 for like 10 minutes, but like I couldn't see it in the. I'm weird with like if you can't see it when you're like reeling it up to the boat, like I'm like I don't feel good about it. I mean, fish can see more than you think, but I just knew they'd eat that jackhammer, so I just like I threw that like 98% of the day. So
what's your jackhammer setup? Rod and reel.
Well, that's actually funny you say that, because my jackhammer, somehow my tip broke on that rod I was using. I was throwing it on a 7'1" Legend X medium heavy fast with I think I have a Corrado 150 XG on it, 30-pound braid, and that's like I throw that rod all the time. It's my favorite.
You're a braid guy too? Straight braid?
Jackhammers, I am. Okay. I mean, I run leaders if it's clear, but then I just actually had got a rod in the mail right before I left, and I really liked it, and I threw the swim baits on it. It's a Legend Tournament 7.2 moderate medium heavy fast. It's called their like carbon cranker. Like, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting, like, because I like moderate rods for like certain applications. Anything with treble hooks, it seems to like handle the fish a little bit better. Mm-hmm. And so when I broke the tip on that one, I just tied that jackhammer on that rod. This is the only other medium heavy I had. Everything else was like medium, and yeah, it handled them fine, man. So yeah.
I've got a couple questions that we started up from earlier. I want to get to before we wrap this thing up here in a minute. From YouTube, Jason Cassidy over there. Do you think a leaderboard look is worth the stress, or is it an advantage?
If you're in the lead, it's the dumbest thing you could do. So yeah, I don't. I mean, the thing is, you can't help not look at it. So, it's like you have to, like, if you're up, in your contention, you got to look. Like, you can't.
I like knowing where you're at if you need to roll the dice. So I'll use that Watts Bar tournament as an example. I was catching like 15 and 16-inch fish, but I knew I needed like a 6-inch cull to have a shot at catching Ewing. So I was like, all right, it's time to, like, you're not going to sit here on this caliber of fish. Like, you have to look for something where a bigger fish is going to position, or you're not going to win. Like, I think it's an advantage in that scenario. Or if you're leading and you see that there's a guy, an inch or two behind you, and you have to cull. Like, I think the pressure may be detrimental, but I think just, kind of strategy wise, like, maybe I can do something different here to close it out.
I'll
throw this one in. Did Bob Baylor make you that mic?
I don't know who Bob Baylor is.
He's the Coon King, man. He's our boy. He's a big raccoon hunter, so I think they're insinuating that looks like a raccoon microphone.
I'm not a coon hunter, but I'm a whitetail guy. But yeah, I would hunt coon if I had a dog, but I don't.
So you ever get up La Crosse, Wisconsin way?
It's fun. You should do it one time. They're like 30-pound raccoons up there, so I
want to get into waterfowl. That's what I really want to get into with my jet, but that's a rabbit hole we'd have to go down, but we're not.
Do it. So. Take $20,000 and light it on fire if you want to get into waterfowl.
Yeah, I mean that's about like anything, right? Though, like anything you get involved in,
you want to pick up a new hobby,
money on fire.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure.
Another YouTube question for you from Joe Mack. I think I heard Josh say no electronics, no motor. Do you think it would have cost you in the tournament if you had those tools?
That's a good question. I would have had to approach it differently. I just don't like. It's
You
not
couldn't
my.
have drugged that motor I mean, like if you're, talking about
No, I
carrying a
could.
kayak, if you got a torpedo
I
strap on there,
literally
you ain't
where I
carrying that thing.
went. I had to like take all my shit out of my kayak, like carry it, and then I had to take my kayak and physically carry it. So like it was like that I-11.
I'm
That
picturing your pilgrimage like
yeah.
to this
I'm
spot in the
legit.
morning. Like, the hell is that guy doing?
Yeah, I legit, and I timed it out too because I was like, I don't know how much time this is gonna take for me to do this. So like, I needed to like portage. So I was like, yeah, I have to do this. So I honestly, man, I don't think it would have cost me. I was at a disadvantage without a motor for sure, like in certain aspects. But where there's a disadvantage, there could always be an advantage. So I mean, that I-11, dude, I'm one little like piece of barbed wire or something from ending my day. So like that thing's like, I had that muskie on. I was like, I don't want that thing anywhere near my friggin' boat. It's gonna cut a big old
or a treble hook, honestly. Like throwing
here's
that
a gray
bullshit.
here's a gray area question for you, Ryan, real quick.
Yeah.
If the barbed wire rips the I-11 and it's just a piece of floating rubber at this point, can you stand there and wade fish with this thing still attached to you? And
Yeah,
still
I
be
would
legal?
think so. Portaging's legal. You still got your kayak with you.
Yeah, I do have I have a kit. Like Jeff Little has videos on all of his inflatables and stuff, and I've like put together like what he recommends in it. And like I've actually not popped it. I've had it leak on the water, and I have a little thing that it's called a K pump. It's like a little handheld air pump that's like real like wide, and I have these like temporary patches you can put on. You can actually cover up a really big hole on those and like still fish the rest of the day, and it doesn't take that long. So I have patches all over that thing. Like I love that thing. That thing's awesome, by the way. If you on a river, an inflatable, it sits essentially above the current. So like when you hit current, like it doesn't push you sideways like a traditional kayak that has the keel like in the water, and it's like a little go-kart basically. And I car topped it. I mean, all the way down. I drove from Indianapolis, like I drove 9 hours. I deflated that thing, had it in my Forerunner, like in the like I didn't have, it's like bare bones, man. You can do a lot with those things. I've thrown it in my jet, like I deflated it, thrown it inside my jet, and like done jet boating and kayaking before, like in one trip. So like it's a cool boat. It just needs to be twice as thick is what it is. Like, and I messaged AJ about like they need to make it thicker. It's just not thick enough.
Well, I think the previous model was thicker. I think it got the latest model is thinner, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken. I am sometimes.
It is, yeah. Because Jeremy Crow, one of my buddies, he has that same boat, the older version, and it is thicker. But he's had his pop before. So, I mean, you know what the biggest culprit of that is fish fins. Like, if you drop a fish on your deck and let it flop around, dude, it will absolutely put holes in that thing. Yeah. I mean, think about it. Fish fins, like, they'll go right through your skin. So, like, you just have to be careful. Since I started really being careful and not letting fish on my deck, like, I've only had, like, one other puncture. So that was, like, the culprit of the majority of those things.
Have you lost anything? That's my thing, is knocking a rod over or...
Oh, yeah. I lost
or something.
On practice day. So I went to that spot and fished on Thursday, and then I loaded up and went to Millersburg to just like fuck around and like catch fish or whatever. I actually ended up catching another 20 down there that same day. I was just like crushing them on practice, but I had I set my rods on my deck and like I wasn't paying attention. I had an X Pride and friggin' Shimano or Corrado XG go in the drink, bud. So I lost it. It's right below the ferry boat, like little ledge that there's a $600 combo sitting down there somewhere.
Right now
so
today?
Yep.
Yep.
Joe McElroy's got about $3,000 up around Liverpool. So anybody cleaning out the river, we got plenty of good gear out there. Josh Evans, he had a yard sale down by Statue of Liberty.
I heard about that. Yeah, that sucks, man. That's a bad day. I mean, if it weren't for me smoking them that day, I would have been really bummed out, but I was like, it's the cost of doing business.
Harshman says he's going to look for it tomorrow.
All right, I'll give you a prize if you get that, Jake. So yeah, Jake's a good dude. Jake is I started that Smallie Games thing from the Chegan. Jake plays it. Me and him gotten to be good friends, so he's a good dude. So
I only have Smallies for like a month and a half, so I had to decline on that one. I knew I'd be getting my ass whooped for the rest of the year.
I'm gonna go down there and catch some of those bad boys, bud. I know where you're fishing at.
Come on down. I'll let you sign an NDA and we'll go out there.
All right. So, all right, we'll take the jet, man. For sure.
A little side note.
You don't need a jet.
The Bassmaster Championship on 10 Killer is stocked with those same breed of smallmouth, Josh.
Oh yeah, I've already.
So there you go.
I mean, Smallie Talk. The one advantage I do have, I have guys all around the country that catch smallmouth that like, they know we're going somewhere. They're like messaging me, oh, you need to go here and go there. Sometimes that information is like overload because I'm like, I don't know what's good or what's bad. But there's a guy that I know there that immediately messaged me and he's like, dude, I'm gonna hook you up. I'm gonna give you some
the juice, the info sharing. Here we go.
Yeah. I mean, that's legal, right?
Yeah, like,
it is legal.
Yeah.
It's completely.
I mean,
legal.
I've never fished that place, dude. Like, I'm gonna go up there and like, I need to have some kind of foundation of where to go. So, it's like, yeah, it's definitely nice to have connections with that. But yeah, I'm gonna fish that, and I'm fishing the river. So, anybody up fishing that river, like,
there's some big ones up in the river, dude. They're up in there.
Yeah, and I probably will get a motor, like for that. I'm gonna get a Torpedo or a PA and run up there because
that on a Newport and a Pro Guide and get after it.
Yeah,
I know.
I might. Yeah, I might do that because going upstream with that Hobie is like that's where you kind of are like, okay, yeah, this is a lot harder. So,
do you only fish off the iTrack or do you have another like hard bottom Hobie as well?
As I mentioned before, I do wilderness stuff. I have like 8 kayaks at my house, and
okay,
like
all right,
I have a lot. But honestly, no, I'm not rich. Honestly, dude, I fish out of that iTrack since I've got it. I haven't fished out of anything else. Like, and I've had it for 2 seasons. I have like buddies I lend those kayaks out to, and they just like use them, and I keep them on my trailer outside.
I'm interested to see how a motor would do on the iTrack. That's where I was going with that in my tiny mind.
I'm sure. So that the one that Jeff and Jake paddle, that like Osprey or whatever, like that boat's pretty badass. Like that's set up for a motor and it's an inflatable.
It's like a mini river raft almost. Looking at that thing, like that's exactly what it reminds me of. Is like a mini guide raft or something.
Yeah, on a river, like those. Like for me, like I don't fish the lakes, dude. I used to fish lakes. I fished enough lakes in my life that I don't ever want to be back on them. So like I just don't have any desire to. I need some flow to get my juices going. So I mean, those inflatables, dude, on moving water are absolutely like an advantage, like 100%. And I have an inflatable raft. Like our podcast is sponsored by this company called River Rat. They make like drift boat, kind of like Smith flies type of thing, and that thing is awesome on the river. Like inflatables are just really cool. Like it's an underutilized type of kayak in my opinion. So
yeah, I need to get one. I've tried a lot of inflatables, but never a kayak. So I'm gonna look into that.
Yeah. Well, look, we don't want to keep you much longer, dude. We're gonna wrap this thing up. There's a few questions out there we didn't get to, but that's all right. We can't.
But we're sorry about that.
Yeah, we're running long. I do want to get your thoughts. We wanted to talk about this with you on here, which is on the new schedule. What'd you think of the new schedule that dropped today? Did you get a peek at it?
He said, "I'm going back to Susky. I'm not looking at anything else."
I saw that. That's exactly what I said, dude. I'm going back to the Susky to try to defend my title, and that's about it. So I'm just not a big, like, I know this is like you got your guys' platform is like around like the tournaments. I love it. Like I loved doing it, but there was nothing about that where I was like, man, I'm going to go on tour and do this. Like I went there to go catch fish on the Susky and compete. And then like, cool, I got a trophy. Awesome. But like, I'm not diving in head first into that.
You know what? Your mental health is better off for it, my friend.
Yeah, guaranteed.
Yeah. I got too much other things going on to be, putting jerseys on, acting like I'm some professional. Like I'm not be doing that. So No,
will
no
you
offense
explain
to
to
guys
me
who wear jerseys.
before you
but-
get off here? Explain your brand and how you came up with the name, because when I see it, I didn't
think
know what
Michigan.
it meant. Yeah.
Yeah, which
Yeah,
makes
so-
me despise it. So go
I
ahead.
know.
This
Well,
is,
I know. So I was like, "What is it?" Because
Yeah.
he's like smallmouth, and I was like, "Cheek? What is that? A Indian name for small? What is this?"
It's from the
It
Reds.
actually, you actually got it right. So that's
Okay, that was my
Yeah.
only logical explanation.
So we pronounce it Achigan, but like I'm a redneck from Indiana, dude. Like I don't know how it's actually a French, like people use it now. It's the French use it. Like one of the companies that I distribute for, they're based out of France, and like they see me wearing a shirt and they're like, "Oh yeah, I know what the Achigan means." And I'm like, okay, dude. But its roots, its actual roots, or it's Algonquin, like language is Ojibwe, so that's like their like native language. It meant, that's what they called smallmouth, and it translates to one which fights, which is kind of badass.
All right,
You
that
know?
makes sense.
So yeah, that's what it means. You can't be too obvious and call it Smallie brand or something like that. You got to have a little bit of mystery there.
I like it. That was my guess, but I wanted to confirm while we had you on here.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's it. But yeah.
I'll be damned. I'm sitting here looking at the definition on some different
I knew
websites.
that. I knew that's what you were looking up right now.
Yeah, and sure enough, my man is
So
dead on.
predictable.
I know. That's what I do. I'm the info guy.
Well, Josh, we appreciate you coming on, man. Obviously, you killed it, set the Susky record, set the bar pretty high for next year. Anybody that missed this tournament, including myself, make sure you get signed up next year. It's going to be in July, so that's kind of more of a traditional time that we fish the Susky, which is also hit or miss on the water level. So I don't know.
Dude, it'll
I don't
probably
know if we'll
dry
see
up
those
next
numbers
year,
again.
dude.
You think it'll dry all the
Yeah.
way up, huh? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It seems like that time of year, July. Every time
It's hit
I
or
go,
miss.
like,
It's hit or
whoa.
miss. You either get a lot of rain and you have high water, but 2 years
Yeah.
that we've been up there, it's been painfully low.
Yeah.
And I might bring an inflatable next year just in case.
Yep, I'd recommend it. So
Very cool. Well, Josh, thanks again, man. Congrats. Everybody go check out Smallie Talk and the Indian name for smallmouth.
Good luck in the championship. I think Jeff and I may come out there and do some media coverage. We'll be
right down the
we'll
road.
be
We'll see.
working at the expo, but we may run down there and see what it's all about and maybe do some interviews and whatnot while that's going on.
sounds good, boys. Appreciate it. Thanks for
right.
thanks for having me on.
Take care, man.
Yep.
All right, Ryan.
We're going to have to go back and bleep that out for the audio podcast.
What part?
The whole episode. Just
Oh,
one
okay.
big.
No, that was good,
Just
man. Josh is
one
a good
big
guy.
bleep. That's
So
awesome.
that was fun. A lot of good information shared. Yeah, cool to see him win. I love seeing a fellow Midwesterner. He's from Indianapolis. I grew up in Dayton, just down the road from him. He probably didn't know that, but
I didn't.
yeah, good stuff. Next week we'll be back on Mondays, right?
We will. We'll be back on Mondays for sure. What are we giving away tonight?
We never did even announce a giveaway.
I know. We didn't thank our sponsors either. So while
Oh my god!
while we were so excited, there was so much bullshit that happened in this tournament, we completely forgot all of our obligations.
Let's do this. We'll give away big money Revos tonight. How about that?
Okay, big money Revos.
We'll do Revos. Hashtag Revos in the comments to win. We'll do it like that.
Love it.
So and while we're doing that, Ryan's going to shout out the sponsors. Let me get this going.
Okay, we're going to shout out our sponsors. Pro Guide Lithium, obviously mentioned earlier. Great partner, great batteries. We have them in stock at the Dugout right now. Bangtail Whiskey, my boy Brandon Bing, taking care of us. And Dugout Bait and Tackle, obviously our presenting sponsor. Anything you need, rods, reels, tackle. Jamie is stocked up. We have plenty of Old Towns and Hobies to go around. If you're looking for that new kayak for the fall, or you want to pick one up to rig over the winter, come on down to the Dugout. We have our giveaway sponsors, obviously Revo, Gill Fishing, Seagar, and Z-Man.
There we go. We appreciate them. We couldn't do this without them. Makes it a lot of fun. You guys that watch make it a ton of fun, and giving back stuff to you makes it even more fun. So we appreciate y'all mixing it up in the comments. They're always spicy.
I'm looking forward to seeing throw that Bassmaster schedule back up. Let's touch on that a little bit more, because I think as far as hammer time fisheries goes, I think they put it pretty spot on, man. Lake Murray, it's known for big fish. That late February, you're going to get that good pre-spawn bite. Possum Kingdom, I think in April, is going to show out. May will be a little late on the smallmouth, but should be really good for the largemouth on Gunnersville. Obviously, we've touched on the Susky coming back again, and then Caddo and Bistineau in the fall. And if you remember from previous tournaments, that Bistineau drawdown, I don't know when that starts, but that might catch that. So that could, throw a little bit of spice into the end of the year tournament for Bassmaster. Again, hats off to my boy Steve-O. It's been so fun, man. Like, Steve and I have been friends forever. Watching him go all in on Bassmaster. I mean, literally quit his job. This is his career, and what he's done with it in the last year is phenomenal. I couldn't be more proud of my boy. And to put out this schedule, I think that's a great follow-up for his second year in charge.
Amen. And I mentioned this to you, Ryan, before we went live. I love how spaced out those tournaments are. Trying to fish this trail does not beat you to death. Like you hit April and May, but other than that, you've got months in between events.
Yep.
You can still fish your local stuff, still fish BOS stuff, whatever else may be going on. You can do that with this kind of schedule. So yep. I like how it's spread out like that. It's gonna be good.
I like it. I do like the spacing. I think it gives you time to kind of plan financially and, time off work. It's not that much of a commitment to where you're really having to put yourself kind of in a bind to be able to make these tournaments.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I see 3 on there they're easy to make. Have to do a little logistical planning to get Murray and Susky on there, but Susky someday it's got to happen. Maybe next year will be the year for me, Ryan.
I'm fishing every one of those. I want a blue trophy so bad I can't stand it. So I'm gonna give it hell next year.
Let's go and do this giveaway. We had well over 100 on the live stream all night from various platforms. We appreciate y'all all across the different. We had a couple Twitchers tonight. Twitch gang going strong.
This is a good point. We didn't even mention how early the schedule's out, because the past few years, Bass has been the very last schedule out, not even coming out till sometimes next year. So fantastic job. I mean, obviously they put a lot into this. They have done everything. When we sat down this time last year on Pickwick, Jeff, they have fulfilled every promise that they've made. They've done great. They've done exceptional media coverage, on their Instagram, on their website, promoted the anglers. Big Worm, shout out to Big Worm. He's, been fantastic capturing these images of anglers on the water. And now they've got the schedule out first. So that's tough, man. That's tough. Good job. Good job, boys.
That's it. All right. With that said, let's give away some shades. See who gets slow rolled tonight. We need to come up with a slow roll prize. I've been talking about that. Here we go.
Do you still have those fly swatters, those leather?
I do.
BDSM fly swatters?
I've not. We hadn't sold those yet.
I bet you have not.
What? How can I?
Wait a minute. Wait
a
freaking minute now.
I'm not even watching. How am I? That doesn't even make sense.
That's Ashley K. Ashley K has it pulled up on YouTube in the living room, and she just won her some.
I bet she does.
Congrats, Ashley K.
But she didn't comment. That's so weird.
That's hilarious. That's how
you coming up again, Valerie.
Dude, I was like, there ain't no damn way he's gonna win again.
That's weird. I'm not commenting. How am I even coming up? I didn't push hashtag anything.
So
you know what I did? Holy hell! You know what I did? On our main comment thread over here, if we put something in there, it goes everywhere. I think it went to all the places streaming. Sure enough, it did.
You got entered off your own hashtag announcement.
What an idiot. Valerie Grant. Valerie, she's a real one, man. She's one of the cool ones from down in Texas. Her and her husband been kayak fishing a long time. I met them at one of the original TOCs years ago. So
Valerie, I'm coming to Amarillo October 27th. I'll bring your Revos.
Yeah, here we go. All right. Hilarious. Hey, great show, man.
Good times. What have we got next? I guess TOC's the last big one left on the list. Yeah.
That's it. We've got some state champs. Yeah, state champs we're going to bring in. Some other different kind of guests we're going to line up and bring in here soon. So it's going to be good. Got
a big fish catching machine out of Texas. He was just honored with the number 8 big bass on the Share Lunker program, 17-pounder. We're going to have him on to tell you about catching big fish in the wintertime in Texas.
Yeah, we got the Lake Fork No Limit tournaments coming up. We also got that Lake of the Ozarks 250 big bass thing coming up. So we got a few more events coming up.
Yeah.
So there we go. All right, y'all. We'll see y'all next Monday.
Take care.